Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm John.
And it's no secret that the Switch is extraordinarily popular. In case you were wondering, since no one could find one, but thanks to some new stats from Nintendo, we can now confirm that it is really with a capital R popular, which kind of got us wondering, possibly best console launch of the generation? Let's take a look and see.
Okay,
I know they're big words considering how well the PS4 is doing, but I think it's worth making the comparison just to see how it is doing in the field.
Okay. Nintendo announced today that the Switch has sold nearly 5 million units since its launch in March. To be precise, the company said in its quarterly earnings report that the console had shipped 4.7 million units by the end of June, and it's almost a certainty that, that a lot more would have been sold if not for the shortages that have plagued the console ever since its launch.
It's kind of a bummer that we can't tell what it would have sold at its full potential because they can't keep them on shelves. And the game's also selling really well. Breath of the Wild has sold nearly 4 million units, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe 3.5 million, and the fighting game ARMS sold more than 1 million as a new IP. So pretty impressive numbers given the install base.
Yeah, so Switch has moved about 5 million units in 4 months. How does that stack up to other consoles? Well, Xbox One launched in November 2013, and Microsoft said that 10 million units had shipped by November 2014, a year after launch. Keep in mind that shipping units to retailers isn't the same as a sale, but at least it gives us some idea of how the Xbox One did. They don't have, 10 million of these things just sitting on the shelves still.
Eventually they do sell through. It's just more of a predictive number than an accurate, here's how many people have purchased one number. Now, as for the PS4, it launched on November 5th, 2013, hit 6 million sold in about 4 months. So at this point, actually, the Switch is ahead of Xbox One, but still behind PS4.
Yep.
So it can't say best launch yet. It is worth noting, though, that many consoles sell a lot of units initially, then slow down. So that could also be the case with Switch. On the other hand, the demand for Switches shows no signs of slowing down yet, given that they keep selling out. And if anything, there are a lot of signs that there's still a lot of pent-up demand for the console.
Overall, Nintendo still projects that it will sell 10 million Switches by the end of March next year, which raised some eyebrows. Some have wondered if that number shouldn't be revised higher.
Considering how many it sold in the first 4 months, do you think that it's going to take 8 months to sell another 5? Guess it depends on them getting components.
Yeah, so well, according to the Wall Street Journal, analysts say that the fact that the number is unchanged reflects a supply bottleneck that could hurt the company during the holiday season. That's the time of the year when parents and others buy consoles and games as gifts, and those sales represent a huge part of the game industry's overall revenue. Obviously, if the Switch's supply situation doesn't change, that means a lot of disappointed gamers.
And GameStop has actually said that shortages of the Nintendo Switch could be a problem for the entire year, a situation which Nintendo of Japan has apologized for. The shortages are partly due to a lack of supply of memory chips that are used in other products like smartphones. It's been reported that Nintendo is specifically competing with Apple for a lot of those parts. So, blame Apple?
Sure. So, just stop buying those phones so we can have Switches. If the shortages continue, can the Switch keep its momentum? WCCF Tech talked to analyst Carol Severin, who said he thinks they can. He said the Switch has traditional console games like FIFA and Rocket League, as well as their own IP like Zelda, Splatoon, and Mario. He said, for now, Nintendo's lineup mix is addressing the right issues as they bring their hybrid games proposition to life fully.
Of course, Nintendo's also said it's working on a Pokemon game for the Switch, which is the first time a mainline Pokemon game would ever have come to a home console, which means demand could go even higher. But again, that's not expected until at least next year, maybe later. And of course, Metroid Prime 4 is out there somewhere in the TBD future as well. The bottom line is that Nintendo has a very deep bench of IPs and is just starting to roll its first party stuff out. You know what we haven't seen? We haven't seen Animal Crossing. We need a Pikmin game, I'd say, like a proper one, not the one that's just coming out on the 3DS that's kind of a spin-off and isn't the same anyway, and really possibly should have been a Metroid game and got misbranded. But that's just me.
I want a Donkey
Smash
Kong
Brothers.
game. I want a
Donkey Kong. Like, there are so many IPs that they haven't even begun to dig into yet.
Yeah, but make it a good Donkey Kong game. Don't make it a crappy one.
Don't make a lame one.
Switch shortages aside, Nintendo is raking in the bucks right now. It had $1.3 billion in sales for the quarter, which was a 148% increase over the same quarter last year.
Right, not 48%, 148%. Huge turnaround for the company, which earlier this decade was in pretty bad shape. In fiscal year 2011, when the Wii was on its last legs, 3DS was off to a pretty slow start. This is before the Wii U even. The company reported a net loss of $532 million for the entire year. Back then, Nintendo's big hope was that the Wii U would be its big savior. Yeah, not so much.
That didn't work at all.
Nope.
As for the 3DS, it sold 950,000 units during the quarter, a 1% increase over the same period in 2016. It had software sales of 5.85 million units, a decrease of 31%. Some have said, have also wondered if Nintendo will drop support for the 3DS now, given that the Switch is a portable device too. Nintendo has tried to squash those rumors, but the 3DS is 6 years old now, and it does appear to be winding down.
I think they just launched the new 2DS XL, so they're at least trying to make production on that less expensive because they don't need all the 3D components. And let's be honest, most of us didn't use the 3D anyway.
I always had it turned down.
Right, so they haven't abandoned it yet. It asked if the Switch was cutting into the 3DS user base. Severin said, that may be, but it's nothing unnatural. Old products get replaced by new ones. I believe Nintendo is aware of this and not worried. It's part of their natural evolution.
As for the Switch's sales, we'll see if Nintendo can keep up its current momentum. Nintendo's biggest problem right now is making enough to simply keep up with demand, but as any company will tell you, that's a good problem to have.
Oh, it's a good problem to have up to a certain point, but like for example, the NES Classic, huge shortage, everyone was upset, but now look at how people are rabid to make sure they get the SNES Classic this time around, that they don't miss out this time. That can be a good thing for them. Up until people get frustrated and write off the platform.
And then use their money for other stuff.
Exactly. If they cross that line, then it becomes a bad problem to have. But what do you guys think of the Switch launch so far? You fan? Do you have one? Not have one, but still want one, just can't find one? Or are you holding off waiting for another game to sell you on the system? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your Nintendo news, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Know.
Really popular.
Two reallys.
Two reallys. It's a lot. And one of them, can we call like capital R really?
It's actually all capital
it
in the
is.
prompter.
You're right. I'm gonna go back to the top. Keep fucking talking about the prompter, John.
Is that
We're supposed to pretend that we just know this stuff.
Okay.
That's the charm of it.
I like the